Man accused of murdering another man whose body was found in an old shooting range has been charged with capital murder. Dennis Hicks was indicted today. Joshua Duncan's body was found more than a year ago at an old Mobile police firing range on Cody Road. Hicks has been in jail for a parole violation. Local 15's Frank Morales is live from a mobile newsroom at the sheriff's office. And Frank, Hicks had a lot to say this morning.
Yeah, that's right, Andrea. He repeatedly told us that he did not kill Duncan, though he says he sympathizes with Duncan's family, saying that he took in and cared for the mentally challenged man. Authorities say Hicks was the last person to see Duncan before he went missing and was brutally murdered.
They'll say that they tortured me over there. I'm innocent of this faulty indictment. I haven't done anything wrong.
It's been a year since Dennis Hicks made this same walk to Metro Jail. The now gray-haired convicted murderer from Mississippi still maintains his innocence in the violent death of 23-year-old Joshua Duncan.
I don't know when, where, or how he died. He didn't die at my house. He walked away from my house. I'm tired of these police doing this to me wrong. I've been locked up for over a year for nothing. Haven't done anything.
$13 to hear the charges for this call.
Yeah, give her our shipping address.
Or say 2. To accept this call, press or say 5. To refuse this call, hang up now. To block this call and all future calls, press or say 9. This call will be recorded and subject to monitoring at any time. Thank you for using IC Solutions. You may begin speaking now.
Hello, Mr. Rudy.
Hello, Mr. Dennis Hicks. I appreciate you calling, I was just in the middle of calling the Alabama Criminal Court of Appeals to get Thomas Lane's audio hearing, so I had my wife jump on that phone so that we could talk, because I didn't want to, you know how these prison phone calls go. When you call, you got to stop everything, because I can't call you back and you can't call me back. But if it's okay with you, Dennis, is it okay if I call you Dennis?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'd like to share some things with you about me before we get started, so that all the cards are on the table, and there's no surprises from either your end or my end, if that's okay.
Sounds great.
Okay, well, I run a Christian prison ministry in Texas, and we have a website called yearofjubilee.com. Jubilee is spelled with one E, and as you know, all of my calls are recorded and they go out publicly. There's no monetization of this. In other words, nobody's making any money from recording any of this. It's just I'm doing this because I believe our judicial system has gone off the rails, and there's a lot of unjustly people incarcerated. So having said that, we advocate for, some people that we believe are innocent. When it comes to your case, I simply don't know the details, but I'm willing to listen to what you have to say, and if you want to appeal, publicly your case, that might be a good option for you. Now, your lawyers will probably tell you not to do this. You obviously, lawyers don't want anybody to talk out publicly because they feel like it gives, the game plan away to the prosecution or gives them additional ammunition against you. But your case is very serious since you're on death row, and our goal is to simply give a voice to the prisoners and let people decide for themselves. I do not get involved in legal aspects or fundraising, and there's a letter on the way to you if it hasn't arrived already, but that's enough about me. I can tell you what little I know about your case, but you mentioned that you are a Bible-believing follower of the Lord Jesus Christ too, so you're welcome to tell everybody about how you came to know the Lord and anything about your case and anything that people can do to help you that you may that you may need done if you are. My understanding is you're maintaining your innocence. So enough about me, Dennis. But anything you want to say, feel free to say it.
Okay, I have a couple questions there from your comments. Is the recording edited, or is it just straight from the first second to the end? If it's 15 minutes, 2 minutes, 5, whatever, it's not sliced up.
That's a very good question. Sometimes in the middle of a phone call, a prisoner will mention someone's personal address or personal phone number, or they'll request to go off the record. They'll say, I don't want this to go out, and because it's a private matter. It's not like they're trying to hide anything. It's just there's certain things that are private, and I understand that. So unless you say anything that's like if you put somebody's personal address or personal phone number, I will likely edit that out. Or if you tell me this is a private part of the conversation, I will take that out. But otherwise, it's unedited. It goes out exactly as you say it.
Okay. I just clarity on that, because you're right. I wouldn't want somebody to boomerang individual and they will get discouraged from unnecessary attention and stuff. So okay, I'm on board with that. I'm on the same page with that. And I did receive the money gift. I appreciate that. It registered on my account, and I could use the personal hygiene and the right material and stuff. I really do appreciate that. I wrote you a letter back, you and your wife, thanking you, and I did receive your letter, and it's got like 24 questions or however many, 18, 20, I hadn't counted them. I wrote some responses down, and I'd like to comment on all of them in the order that you gave them, if that's all right.
No, that sounds good, Dennis. And I'm trying to think of also as we go through our discussions in the future. Always feel free to ask me any question you want. Right? There's no question off limits, and it goes both ways, right? So yeah,
right.
If you,
thank you.
And I should also say that we don't just advocate for Christians. We also advocate for people of other religious beliefs if we believe they are innocent and unjustly incarcerated. But I do have to ask the question because I believe that someone's religious faith can determine how well they weather the storm of being incarcerated. And so I'm glad to hear that you are a Bible-believing follower of the Lord Jesus Christ. But go ahead and I would love to hear the answers, to the questions that we sent you, sir.
Okay, I'm in agreement with your destiny. It doesn't matter if you're incarcerated or who you are. It does make a difference if you're born again in the body of Christ. First question here is, do I have a King James Bible? I do. In fact, I have several translations, but King James is my favorite because that's what I grew up with. The second is, are you a Bible-believing follower of Jesus Christ? Yes, I am. My birthday will be August the 1st. I was born in 1958, so I'll be 60 years young here in a few weeks. And as a small child, Mom taught me right from wrong, and she taught me how to be strong and not weak, and she led me to the Lord. Christ saved me when I was a mere boy, like 5 years old. And as a child, with a child's simplicity, God won me over with His love. I went to Bible school and learned in the church where Christ's goodness, how He sacrificed His life, how He loved us, how God sent Him down here to teach us how to get back with God. And I believe as a child, God saved me, but due to environment of my growing up, Mom and Dad got a divorce after 28 years. I'm the last of 10, and I had an illness. Well, the doctor specialist had given me up to die several times, said I wouldn't make it till I was 12 years old, but it was an enlarged heart with murmurs in it. But God healed me physically. At the age of 12, I stopped seeing specialists. It was okay to be normal activities. Well, Mom had remarried my stepdad after about 10 years of my Mom and Dad's divorce. Dad remarried, so I had a set of parents, but there was I guess you would say, an emotionally scar wound there as a child. It's one of the most devastating, I would put it at the top 5 devastations that I've ever felt in life. I mean, when you're a baby and your mom and dad splitting up, you don't know what's going on, and everybody's raising Cain back and forth. You're going through police custody to get to see mom and dad back and forth. The court did award mom to custody, and mom did stay married to my stepdad for 30 years, and he passed away in 2005. But I'm getting ahead of myself. She had a lot on her hands, and I strayed in my adolescence. I was probably what a person would say a lost sinner. I was running with the wrong crowd in junior high and high school. I started lying and cheating and stealing and doing things that the sideshow attractions of the world would teach you. And even though they wasn't big things, they escalated. By the time I was like 17, I had broke into a couple of houses and broke in a couple of schools and got arrested and stuff, and was sent to youth department, youth center. So I got out of that, and my brother in South Carolina wanted me to change environment, so I went up there, was working with him, stayed up there for about a year when I was 19 years old. And Hurricane Frederick hit Mobile in 1979, and it did some damage to Mama's place, so she asked me to come back. So I come back and did work for her and everything. My step-nephew, JoJo, one night asked me to go with him to Meridian, Mississippi, that his daddy was going to give him some money, help him with his school stuff. And I didn't have enough money and gas money to take him with my car. And I was just doing construction work, and I think back then I was getting $4 or $5 an hour, something like that. But we decided to hitchhike. So from that, in October 1979, I'm 21 years old, and I'm living a life that I might have went to church every now and then. Mom was faithful in her Christian life. She didn't stray from the Lord. She stayed with God her whole life. Whenever she got a divorce from Dad, she got in the church, and for 50-something years, she stayed in the church. Well, I would come home and she'd be reading the Bible. She would be telling me that she prayed, and she sent gifts to Billy Graham and Oral Roberts and Jim Breaker and all these people that God was using back in the 70s to teach the body of Christ, that raised up Jimmy Squire and just a bunch of people. Well, me and my nephew went to Mississippi and was hitchhiking. We were picked up, and I do deeply regret and remorseful of the crime that occurred, because taking the law in my own hands, being judge and jury and all, and even though they attacked him and assaulted him, and we stopped 3 times, and we got argument all 3 times, but the last time it was a fight, and during the fight, I shot the guys. It was out of fear. It was out of them attacking JoJo. He was 16. I was 21. They was in their late 20s and early 30s. So that tragedy got me locked up in Mississippi jail over in Moines County. I turned to God eventually, because Mom kept saying he was the answer, he was the way, and so. Hey, yes,
I want to just clarify what you just said. Your nephew was 16 years old. You were 21 years old, and these 2 guys that were attacking your nephew, how old were they?
29 and 32, if I'm not mistaken, in the late 20s and in the early 30s. They were grown adults. They masqueraded and said that they were married, and I guess you call them a drag queen. They was dressed up like women and stuff like this.
They were both of them were sodomites, transgender kind of folks.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So you took the law into your own hand. You took the law into your own hand to defend your nephew, and you shot him, and you don't even shy away from that. I mean, that's what happened, and that's just, you said you regret that it happened like that, but that's you're not like maintaining you didn't shoot him or anything. You shot him, and you say you shot him. Is that the way that it is?
Right.
Okay.
And, it was a lot of factors involved with this, where all the autopsy, all the lawyers, and all, everybody's family, we were all devastated. We were all victim in the sense that it was a tragedy that happened. At the particular time, out of fear and panic and all, I shot him, but it was wrong. And once I realized that I was in that situation, God led me to step up to the court and say, look, the lawyers just offered me an involuntary manslaughter. They want to fight the case. They want to do all these things, but I was wrong. In my part, I shot both of them. I shouldn't have shot them. During the fight, I panicked, and I regret it, and I'm going to do a no contest. And the judge said, well, if you shot him, then you're pleading guilty. And I said, well, if that's the way the eye of the law is going to decide it, then yes. Well, they gave me 2 life sentences at 21. I went to prison. I stayed in prison for 25 and a half years. And everyone that knows that when you're born again, that the Holy Spirit births you into the family of God, and you have a new spirit. my old nature, the carnality of my mind, I had to renew it. I had to regenerate it. And you do that through studying and reading, praying, and discipline, and training yourself in the Word of God. So for 25 years, God, and I have hundreds of certificates in my life where God led me to do Bible courses and so forth. But through repentance, through rehabilitation, if you want to use a penal word, but in the Bible it's renewal, where I went through that phase of sight, I went through that phase of feeling, to where I matured in the faith. And as a Christian man, I shared here on the road, I shared in my life for 6.5 months in society. A little faith that gets you to heaven, a lot of faith that heaven comes down to you. With great faith, you can live a life like Jesus lived. You can live a peaceful, godly life without sin. Now, I was a sinner. I was wicked. I was lost. I lied, cheated, stole, and I did all those things. Let girlfriends live with me and all that as an adolescent, as a teenager. But at the age of 21, I walked out at it. Did I make some mistakes between 1979 and now? I have. But the point of my discussion here is I walked away from that. I don't live towards doing that. And thank God they become less and less as Jesus' righteousness multiplied and become more and more to a point where I live a good, godly life. For instance, drugs. I've had over 500 drug tests in the last 40-something years of my life, and I've never failed a drug test because instantaneously in the jailhouse at 21 years old, I rededicated my life to Christ Jesus. The Holy Spirit, joy and peace supersede all the chemicals, all the superficial answers that the devil of the world will give you about the wounds of your soul, the heartaches, the breaks. Mine was a little bit dysfunctional family with mom and dad divorce and everything. Like I say, it was a tragedy to me. Everybody got over it but me, and I let the sideshow attractions of the world build up in me to where I kept getting cluttered with contaminated pollution of just being a teenager in the 70s, you know, with Richard Nixon and the Watergate, a lot of other stuff that was going on. But the point was that God generally come to me when I called on Him in the jailhouse. And since then, I've never looked back and believing God loved me, values me, treasures me. Now, the world is going to say, and the DA did, she told the jury I was scum, filth, trash, and all kind of monsters. And paraphrasing it to get the point across that even though the appearance of my younger life is colorful, and I made some mistakes, I stepped up to the truth. God led me to the truth. The truth set me free, and the point that I live a constructive life, a productive life in the body of Christ. So I could go on for 25 and a half years, a lot of different projects that God led me to, a lot of different activities where my spiritual growth was matured. But I believe in angels, I believe in the Holy Spirit, I believe in Jesus Christ as the Son of God, I believe God Almighty is Jehovah, and that He's the Creator and the Father of life, and all those who come to Him, that He saves a lost sinner into the righteousness of Christ. That Christ credited me, married me by substituting Himself on the cross, dying for me. So, during the 25 years, I went up for parole 7 times, and after the 10-year mark, from 10 to 15, which adds up to 25, I believe I was visited by an angel, and the angel asked me, Dennis, what do you want God to give you? He recognizes all the things that you've done for the last 25 years. And I asked him, I said, well, my mom's old. I don't want her to pass on like Dad without me being there to help her. And I asked to be released to go take care of my mom. Well, the miracle, Brother Rudy, was I went up for parole. By the grace of God, people stepped up in my life. From Governor William Winters, my mentor, he was leading my campaign for a clemency of pardon. They granted me parole. I went to my uncle, Reverend Christine Morgan, in Corinth, Mississippi. I was doing construction work, had a great parole officer, was doing fine. I was become a member of the Shiloh Baptist Presbyterian Church, by standing with them. And My stepdad passed on, and Mom called me and said, "Son, your siblings is trying to put me in a rest home. I don't want to go. You're my youngest. You're my baby. Will you come and take care of me?" So I said, "Mom, you know I'm on parole, but let's pray about it and let's see what God would have." He did. He gave me a double parole status. I told my boss man, he gave me 2-week notice, said my mom was sick. My family wanted to put her in the rest home. She didn't want to go. The man hugged me, went in his wallet, gave me $500. He said, "Son, your mom is more important than my job, your job here. When you get her right and everything, you always got a job. You can come back." He paid me off. I went down there. I took care of Mom. She didn't need 24-hour care, but she did sign over and made me a full-time caregiver. Well, I paid my boss man back. I got a good parole officer here in Alabama. I had a good parole officer in Mississippi. Mother lived for another year and a half. She passed away in 2006. During that year and a half, we renewed a lot of her acquaintances in the church. We did what she wanted to do. She lived a peaceful life. I was honored and privileged that Mom summoned me home to take care of her. Now, I had some rivalry with my siblings because they didn't like that Mama picked me and actually set me up and tried to put me back in jail. But God's grace through Mom and different officials, they told the judge, "Look, the siblings are being untrue and not being right about me taking care of her, and you can ask her." And anyway, through those battles, the doctors and the nurses and everybody stepped up, and they cleared me of false allegation was my niece. My niece was married to a man, and she was in adultery relationships with a police officer. This police officer was married with several kids. She was married with several kids, and they were blunting their relationships. And through God's leading, I asked her, "Don't do that. Don't bring him over here. Y'all both married and y'all sleeping together, and it's wrong. And Mom don't like it, and I don't like it." And it made a big conflict between us. And she, how do you say, vindictive in a poisonous type way, venom, that she started telling the family all kind of lies about me, and it caused a big uproar in the family. But anyway, the judge dismissed all of it, said it was civil rivalry, jealousy, and everything. And Mom was in a coma for a day and a half when she was almost 84 years old. But up to that last day of her life, she was coherent. She was able to discuss things, do things at all. She just lost a little weight and wasn't able to eat because of diabetic and arthritis and the illness of just her being 80, almost 84 years old. But when Mom passed away, she gave me instructions on what to do with her estate. She made me the power of attorney. She made me the administrator of her living will. She did all these things, and I fulfilled the obligations as best as I could. Now, I owe one person in my life cash money, which is my goddaughter's mother, and I still owe a few thousand Mama's estate. Other than that, I was on a mission to get out of debt. Mom did give me her house, and it was a $125,000 home, but it had a mortgage on it, and the mortgage was something like $59,000, almost $60,000, where we paid it down to that. The day that I was arrested, they put a banner around my house and kept it under quarantine for like 6 months. But for 5 years after Mom passed away, I was active in the Church of God, standing in Mobile. My home-based church was the Power of God Worship Center, Pastor Jerry McNeil, and my sister church was Gateway Baptist Church, Pastor Paul West. And I imagine he asked me in a 5-year period to become a member of his church a dozen times, but I was just a visitor, but I loved going around to other churches besides my home-based church. Well, to fast forward all the way up, and I'm skipping a whole lot, but getting at the age of 53 years old, I knew this guy. His name was Joshua Duncan. He was 23, almost 24 years old. Well, I was helping over 2 dozen widows around the community in the neighborhood. I would go and ask them if they need their grass cut, something did with their roof or whatever, and I wouldn't charge some. Now, there were several that was wealthy and material things, so they did pay me. Probably 50 widows, 15 of them was actually able to pay me, but most of them was living on fixed income. So if I cut a tree down or if I fixed a tire or whatever, I wouldn't charge them because they didn't, they were barely making it, and I didn't want to take that money because they'd either buy food or medicine or pay me. So I would just tell them to pray for me because God really blessed me. I was out 6 years, 9 months, and 2 weeks, and I never had a bad day as far as career work goes. I was a first-class ship fitter for a while because I went to Alabama training school and become a welder and fitter. I have skills that God's blessed me with the ability to do renovation. I can do probably 80-90% of a house in any type of structure, windows and doors or roofs or whatever. And plus I had other entrepreneur jobs. For instance, Greater State Fairgrounds, I had a 10-year contract with. Every year I had a food booth, which I would hire 8, 9, 10 people to work for me, and it was one of the 8 permanent buildings there at the fairground. All these different types of income from flea market. I've probably sold over 200 dogs in a 5-year period at the flea market through my brothers and my sisters selling chihuahuas and pit bulls and teacup poodles, and my sister had worldwide weenie dog bass hound kettle.
Hey, Dennis, just a quick question. I'm trying to make a timeline here to get my dates accurate. So, for the original crime, you spent 25.5 years in prison. You got double parole, and what year did you get out?
Okay, I got arrested in '79. I got out in 2005, February 2005. I went to live with my uncle, Reverend Christian Morgan, in Mississippi. My other son would be home, so we went through both Department of Treasury Commissioner and governors and got a double transfer. So I left Mississippi several times on 30-day passes, but when the official paperwork come through, I believe it was in the month of either June or July, I was a full-time resident here in Alabama in 2005, and I took care of Mom for over a year and a half, and she passed away in September of 2006. From 2006, I went 5 years, and now both parole people were giving me recommendations to get pardoned. I had an outstanding parole status, reporting, job, income, all the things that were required, and they did. They would call me up on the job for a urine test. They would come to the house for a urine test, so I would go every month, and sometimes I would walk in, they would urine test 80, 30, 40, 50, whatever, and I had an outstanding record. Well, in September of 2009, I went to visit one of the church widows down the road. Her name was Houston, Dorothy Houston. Well, her and her grandson had a major falling out. She had put him out of the house. He was sleeping in the ditch, and mosquitoes was, all the marks and everything. To make a long story short, and she had already asked me several times, because I have a 3-bedroom brick home, and I would take people in the family or in the church. They needed a weekend or a week or two. I was glad. Sometimes I would rent a room. Sometimes if they didn't have any money, I'd just let them stay there for a few days or a week or two until they got their whatever situation straightened out. Well, I took him in, and he told me that he was trying to get his driver's license, trying to get his food stamp thing. He was trying to get on his feet, trying to get independence. So I said, well, okay, I'll let you, this was September, I'll let you stay a few weeks or a month or two. Next month is my fair month, and I hire 8, 9, 10 people. I'll give you $1,000 if you will work the 10 days that the fair is open, and plus I work before and after because it's a big deal. It takes a lot to get it all together and everything, because you have to have your license and your board of health, all the things that require, just like a real restaurant. Food people come test everything. So he agreed to that, and he come stayed with me, and this was in the month of August. Well, he was going around the neighborhood trying to sell his TV, his rifle, and all this other stuff to get on his feet. And he tried to sell a utility trailer.
Well, and let me stop you there just to make sure I'm clear. So this is a grandson of a widow that you did work for, and this must be Joshua Duncan. Is that true?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and how old was he when he moved in with you in 2009? Do you remember how old he was?
Yes, so he was 23.
23. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, and they made a false impression at the trial and everything, and tried to say that he was mentally incompetent or retarded or disabled, that he had a child's mind, but this is not true in reality. Not only did he go to club, not only did he have adult relationships, there was a guy named Jason Victor that lived next door to him for, I think, 12 years. Josh was driving a car when he was 18 or 19 years old, and Victor got hurt in that automobile accident. It proved that Josh was...
1 minute remaining.
Josh was driving now. Well, all the people that the police started lying to, started saying all kind of false accusations about I had did this horrible crime, and they arrested me. I bought the trailer from Josh. And his grandmother called me. I told her, yes, I bought the trailer from him. I have a bill of sales and everything. Well, the police told her to put out a warrant. She put out a warrant and arrested me. Now, Josh had walked away from my house on September the 6th on a Tuesday, but he also walked from my house to the store on the 5th. He left 2 times. One, he come back, and the second time, he didn't come back. He had only been with me like several days. And I was working renovating at my sister's house, Regina Norris's, and he'd come over, and he was helping me.
Will you be able to call us back? Will you be able to call us back since it's going to cut us off?
Okay, yes, sir. I will.
Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I know that's going to cut us off any second now. So if you call us back, we'll let you finish the story.
You have a prepaid call from
Dennis Hicks,
an inmate at Pullman Correctional Facility, Alabama Department of Corrections. Your account balance is $22.29. To hear the charges for this call, press or say 2. To accept this call, press or say 5. To refuse this call, hang up now. To block this call and all future calls, press or say 9. Hello, you have a prepaid call from
Dennis Hicks,
an inmate at Pullman Correctional Facility, Alabama Department of Corrections. Your account balance is $22.29. To hear the charges for this call, press or say 2. To accept this call, press or say 5. To refuse this call, hang up now. To block this call and all future calls, press or say 9.
Okay, I did try to accept the call, but it would not let me accept the call. I was hitting 5.
I have a prepaid call from
Dennis Hicks,
an inmate at Pullman Correctional Facility, Alabama Department of Corrections. Your account balance is $22.29. To hear the charges for this call, press or say 2. To accept this call, press or say 5. To refuse this call, hang up now. To block this call and all future calls, press or say 9. This call will be recorded and subject to monitoring at any time. Thank you for using IC Solutions. You may begin speaking now.
Hello, Mr. Rudy.
Hello, Mr. Dennis. I just want to let you know I did try to accept the call, but for some reason it wasn't working. You should know that I'm on a list myself. I've been visited by various law enforcement agencies, and so there are people who are not going to like what we're doing. You know, the fact that you're going to get your story out, and if ever I don't receive the call, it's almost always I'm trying to accept the call, but for some reason it just doesn't work. I don't know why. I don't know if they're messing with the phone or what. But what you were saying up until the point you ran out of time was your mother died in 2006, God rest her soul. Joshua Duncan, 23 years old, I think moved in with you in August, September of 2009. She was the grandson of a widow that you were doing work for. You said that the law enforcement officials were putting out the idea that he was mentally disabled or retarded, but you're saying that was not the case, and I'll let you pick up from there if you want to, sir.
Okay, of course I'm not a medical professional, and I'm not saying that he didn't have issues. I'm saying that if you walked up and talked to him, he didn't appear to have any mental problems. I mean, he dated women, he smoked cigarettes, he went to clubs, he was a normal 23-year-old man, but he did go to church, and he did confess Jesus Christ, and he just wasn't a totally 100% Christian life. I enjoyed helping people, and I agreed to help him. And this, I was in Mobile from 2005, and this is 2011 now. And when I decided to help this young man, I was doing renovation work at different houses, and one happened to be Regina Norris, my sister's stepsister. My dad was married to her mom like 30, 35, 40 years ago. Well, he'd come over and he helped. All right, the neighbor had a surveillance security camera, 6 views, and 2 of them had an angle of my sister's driveway and part of her front porch. You could actually see from his video who comes to assault her and stuff. Well, the police, when Josh left my house on Tuesday, September 6, 2011, the family started putting posters up. I started working with Lieutenant Andrew Peak. He called. I told him what Josh was wearing when he left the house and all of this. And he talked the grandmother in putting a warrant out on me. They put a warrant out on me. I was arrested. I went to the Metro Jail for this alleged trailer theft. All right, I had a dozen people was there, witness that he tried to sell it to them, and a half a dozen was there. I gave him $375. This was a utility trailer that his granddaddy gave his daddy, and his daddy had committed suicide, and he had inherited the trailer from his daddy and his granddaddy. He was telling the community and the neighbors, and we're not just talking 1 or 2 people. Many people was willing to testify to this fact, and that I purchased the trailer from him in an honest transaction. In fact, for 5 years, my parole officer had gave me permission to be an entrepreneur, and just on utility trailers, if you count a horse trailer and stuff, I bought 9 trailers over that period of time, but I bought many other things too. But that was one of my incomes where I would fix up old stuff.
Okay, and Dennis, I'm not trying to interrupt. I'm just trying to clarify for myself. So on Tuesday, September the 6th of 2011, are you saying that you were buying a utility trailer on that day? Is that the day that is that the day that? I'm sorry.
I bought the utility trailer prior to that at the end of August.
Oh, I see.
I think I actually bought it September the 1st. It's on the bill of sales. It was either a Thursday or Friday. Thursday was August the 31st, and Friday was September the 1st. So I believe it was a Friday that I actually gave him the money, and he signed a bill of sales in front of Marianne Lambert and Chris Wells and Derek Touchstone and other people that was there. But now he had decided he was going to stay with me. He moved in with me in September, and he was there at my house several days, and we went to my sister's house several days working and stuff. All right, and this is where the whole has started. The law enforcement agency, when he was a missing person, for some reason, Lieutenant Pete decided that Josh was dead. I didn't know that Josh was dead until November, when the coroner identified the body that was found in the woods. All right, the body was found on October the 24th. I was at the fairground working. Okay, whenever he left my house, I went to my pastor, Terry McNeil. When I got out of jail, my parole officer believed me. She saw the bill of sale. She asked the judge to not revoke my parole. She reinstated it. I got out on bond. So I'm out on bond. And the police, dozens of times, I talked to them when they called me, say, come down and talk to me. All this type of stuff. Steady trying to help all that I could, but I was now on the radar of the police. And because Lieutenant Andrew Peak, his bias, his prejudice, his misguided blindness, he started going around telling people. He come to my parole hearing. He told my parole officer, Mr. Hicks killed Josh. And I said, this is not true. This is not true. And this is in September. Nobody had knew that Josh was even dead until the body was identified, and this was late November.
Well, okay, so when was he reported missing? What day was he reported?
Well, he left my house 2 times. He left my house Monday, and I called several people, and I called his grandma. I said, hey, Josh, come over to get his TV, his rifle, his fishing pole, and all. And she says no. I said, well, when I was asleep, somebody come and got him, or he walked off. He's not here. Well, I told her I was going to work at my sister's house. If he come to call, and I'd come pick him up, or he could come over there. Well, when I left my house, he was walking back from the store, and I picked him up. I said, look, I just talked to your grandma, called her, and we went to Regina's house. Well, he was mad at his grandma. He didn't call her. Well, there was a lot going on in my family, in my private life, where it was a minor issue. It wasn't even an issue with me to call his grandmother back there at that particular time. Number one, at weekend I had my sister, who was in the hospital, out on a furlough. I had my brother-in-law had a heart attack, and he had passed away in that Sunday. So this was Tuesday, and there was a lot of emotional things in my life that was going on. That he was a grown man, Mr. Rudy. I didn't take him in to babysit him or anything like that, and I felt responsible for him because he did come and stayed with me. But as far as a fight, as far as a killing, any of that never happened. All the crime scene, all the forensic stuff that was found, Lieutenant Peake disregarded all of that. He went and started telling the neighborhood that I jumped on Josh, we had a fight at my house, and I killed him and disposed the body. That didn't happen. That wasn't true. And well, I told my sister.
When you talk about the utility trailer and that people saw you, buy the utility trailer, what am I supposed to? I'm not picking up on why that's important. Why are you talking about you buying a utility trailer? Why is that an important part of the puzzle?
Because the lieutenant asked the grandma to arrest me. When he found out, when he talked to me, and Josh left my house, and she told the police, well, I called Mr. Hicks, and he said he bought my trailer, and he claims that Josh sold it to him, but Josh didn't have any right to sell it to him. But that's not what Josh told society as far as the community and everything. The trailer is important on the simple strength that the law enforcement had the grandmother to use that as a front to have me arrested. When they had me arrested, and he couldn't keep the parole officer, and I'm telling you, the parole officer stood up to that lieutenant and told him that she was my supervisor, and she had been reviewing my record for over 6 years. I hadn't did anything wrong, and I had a bill of sales, and she talked to the people, and they told her that I purchased the trailer. So she told the judge personally herself that I'm not revoking Mr. Hicks. I'm reinstating him. If you give him a bond, he can come out, and that's what happened. Well, this infuriated him, and at my parole hearing now, not talking to the grandmother, he took a third-degree charge in less than $500. He put the trailer over $2,800 and said that he's changing my arrest warrant from a third to a first degree, which is a felony, which, it puts a whole different legal standing with that charge. Well, I knew I was innocent, so I went to my pastor, and I went to dozens of people and said, look, we need to find Josh and have him to call the police and tell him that he sold me this trailer because my life's in the balance. They're going to send me back to Mississippi to prison if I don't prove my innocence.
I got you.
This is why the trailer was important. So when I would imagine at least 24 people was calling me, telling me, and looking for Josh. And Josh was hiding because his grandmother now put a warrant out on him too. And I'm thinking he was ducking that warrant. But it goes back. It goes back to this right here. When police started telling my parole hearings or to telling my community that I had harmed Josh, I told my stepsister, look, ask your neighbor, he turned in the video to the police that Josh was at your house because I was working on a porch and on a roof and stuff. So all this time, the police are saying this man is dead. He's not dead. He's over at my stepsister's house. And it's on the video. That's substantiated. So the lieutenant changed from, well, Mr. Hicks didn't kill him at his house. He killed him at his sister's house. And that's not true either because that never happened. But this is how he set it up.
Okay.
My stepsister's son and daughter-in-law was both in prison. She was awarded custody of 3 minor children, a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old Jason Bubba, and 3-year-old Chance in 2010. She couldn't handle all 3 of the kids. She asked me to help. I talked to the daddy. He said, help my mom be a surrogate parent there while I'm in prison. We appreciate it. We know you. You go to church. And I did. There's hundreds of people thought the 2 little kids was mine. I took them to so many places together. But in June of 2011, and this is so important, Mr. Rudy, in June 2011, she called the other grandmother in Chicago, Illinois.
Now, wait. When you say she called the other grandmother, help me out. Who's she exactly?
She is Regina Norris, and she's in legal guardian custody of the 3 children.
And she's what relation to you?
She used to be my stepsister. My dad married her mom way back in the 70s.
Okay.
And even though we didn't grow up together, we didn't know each other, legally, she used to be my stepsister.
Okay, so she's looking to you to help take care of the children. I got you. While her husband is in prison. I got you. Okay.
No, her son's in prison.
Oh, her son's in prison. Okay, her son's in prison. Okay.
And her daughter-in-law's in prison. They both in prison. That's why she's got the 3 kids.
Okay,
Well,
I got you. Okay.
Okay, she can't handle all 3 kids. She's a nervous wreck because she's going through a lot of trials with a property guy suing her, take her house from her, and son's in prison, and so forth. So she calls the other grandmother in Chicago and asks her to take the kids. Well, she doesn't take all 3 of them. She only takes one. She takes the little baby. His name is Chance. He's, at the time, 2.5 years old. All right. She comes down on a bus from Chicago, picks him up. It's on the video surveillance camera of the neighbor where we proved that Josh was alive when he said he was dead, so they switched it from my house to her house. Okay, now she's in Chicago with him. The police don't know this. All right. Josh goes missing in September. His body is found in October, and it's identified in November. The next day, the lieutenant arrests me. The next year, he gave me a secret indictment for capital murder. They made it capital murder because I was on parole from Mississippi, and they said that I allegedly supposed to have killed him. So that made it a capital offense in Alabama. All right, here's the deal. He talked to lots of people and was telling them all types of lies, and that I was going around killing people, that I killed my brother-in-law, which my brother-in-law wasn't even murdered. He died of a natural heart attack. But he was turning people against me with his poison. And he talked to all 3 of these kids in April of 2012. And when he talked to the kids, he started giving sweets and toys to the little boy named Chance. He was 3 years old at this time. He gave him dozens and dozens of sweets and toys, and finally the little boy did start saying, repeat what this lieutenant, he coached him, he deceived him, he tricked him, he got the little boy to say Uncle Dennis was in a fight, and it was never a fight, Mr. Rudy.
What's this lieutenant's name again? What's the lieutenant's name?
Lieutenant Andrews Peak. It was his first capital case, first murder case. He got his promotion. He got his pay raise. He got all his admiration for solving a brutal killing, because this was a brutal killing. It was a horrible crime. But he got the little boy to say that he saw me decapitate the man's head and cut his arms and legs and hang him on a tree and all kind of barbaric.
Let me interject here. There's people on YouTube that are saying that all 3 children testified that they saw you do this. Is that true, or is it just the 3-year-old Chance?
That's not true. Elisa did not testify. She told him on video at 5 all the way to 10. trial, there was no fight whatsoever, none. She never said that there was fight. She always stated that Uncle Dennis didn't kill Josh. And Bubba, the 4-year-old, he did at April of 2012 agreed with his brother that after all the sweets and the toys and everything, all of this, he did make a statement, yeah, Uncle Dennis got in a fight, but bless his heart, he was 9 years old when he went to trial, and he looked at the judge, he looked at the jury, he looked at the prosecutor, and he said there was no fight. I thought it was a game. I made that up. He recanted that statement. Now, the district attorney jumps up and says, Your Honor, we're making a motion that these children, all three of them, in post-traumatic stress disorder system, they're so shocked, they're so scared of Mr. Hicks that they don't want to testify that he did it in his presence. But they say it out from his presence, but it wasn't true. Right now, those three children will run up and jump in my lap and hug me, and I have a beautiful relationship because the two, I took to the zoo, the churches, the stores for over a year. They called me Uncle Dennis.
Yeah, and Dennis, I'm fully aware of the unjust coercion of little children to say things that is not true. So I'm fully aware of that happening, and even in other cases. Let me ask you this: you said that somebody, the other grandmother, came down and picked up Chance. When did that happen, and what is this other grandmother's name?
The other grandmother come and picked him up in June of 2011, and her name is Michelle. I don't know the lady. I wasn't there when she picked him up, but his own surveillance video camera of the neighbors. But she had the ticket, the bus, and everything, and she took him back to Chicago. I'm not sure of her last name because I don't know her. You can call my lawyer, who is a Christian, who is an appeal attorney, and her name is Rachel Judge at 334-269-1803 at Equal Justice Initiative in Alabama. She's in Montgomery. She can give you full disclosure and details of specific names in the trial. She was called down to my trial. She did go on the trial, and she did testify. She had a few pictures of a Chance with her. She had some medical records where he had hurt his ankle, and the district attorney said, look, your son's in prison. You have law enforcement officers, and you're lying for Mr. Hicks. And she said that for the other grandmother, Regina. When she got on stand and testified that she sent the boy to Chicago, she said, you're lying for dinner. The mother got on the stand. She said, I talked to my son in Chicago when I was in prison. When I got out of prison in November of 2011, I demanded that she bring my child back to me, and she brought Chance back to the state of Alabama in November, late of November. This little boy, 3 years old, was not in Mobile County or the state of Alabama for those 6 months.
Okay, wait. I'm trying to take notes, brother, and this is it's a lot of details. So this Chance, 3-year-old Chance, the toddler, you're basically in prison right now because of his testimony that was coerced by Lieutenant Andrew Peaks. He was not in Mobile, Alabama. Not in Mobile, Alabama. Where was he again? I know you said it, but where do you think he was?
He was in Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago, Illinois. Okay.
Now, the pastor, the daycare, Sunday school teacher, all members of the church, and neighbors, or friends, or family, there's hundreds of photos, and this is what I hope this interview will help assist me. I need advocates, people to rally up volunteers in Chicago because people are moving off, they're dying, and they're forgetting, and this is almost a 7-year case in September. I would like people to contact the lawyer, get the proper name, get the proper address, and get affidavit statements, get photos, get medical records, get the truth, the factual facts that this child was there. Now, back to Mobile, the lieutenant in Coast, he indoctrinated, he told the little boy what to say, and finally they put him on the video, and you have to remember now, this lieutenant, he wasn't told dozens of law enforcement, he wasn't told every child expert, this boy witnessed the murder, and I want you to go in there and get that little boy to tell you what he saw. This little boy's 3 years old, and all these adults coming in there, and they say, did you see this? And it was a game to him. He didn't know right from wrong. He didn't know the truth. He even stated at 8 years old on the stand that he didn't know the difference between a right and a wrong, a lie and a truth.
Yeah. You don't have to convince. You don't have to convince me, Dennis. Using coerced testimony from a 3-year-old. Is no reason whatsoever to put a man to death on death row that you are. Let me ask you this other question. Okay, let's put aside the testimony that came from Chance and maybe the other Bubba. Is there any other corroborating evidence that they have against you? Is there any other anything, DNA or just any other evidence at all that they used against you for this murder other than the testimony of these children?
Yes, it is. And Mr. Rudy, before I go to the next thing, I would like to say this. The forensics evidence at Regina North's house all cleared. There was no blood. There was no fight. There was nothing. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yep.
Okay. All the forensics tests at her house, the tree, the yard, the enamel, the carpet, the floor, everything, and they did dozens of tests, and it didn't substantiate this theory about a killing. All right. The lieutenant put dabber dogs. There was like 9-10 months later, he put some dabber dogs there, and my personal opinion is that he put some bones there where he said little Chance pointed out the fight occurred, and it's a tree where he said the little boy, he's not in Mobile, he's not in Alabama, but he said the little boy said this is where it happened. So this police told the dabber dog owner where, and the 4 dogs, one of them sit at that spot, and they used that as evidence in the trial. Now, the other evidence that they used, Mr. Rudy, I was in that county jail for 5 years. Over 10,000 people went through that jail. 8,000 of them didn't make bond. I was in the same cell for over 3 years, and of the 6,000 people that I had a acquaintance with, a met and saw visual, I was a tutor for 2 years. I was one of the active workers for the chaplains department, setting up the churches and mopping and sweeping the floor. I was actually an honorary trustee. I could walk back and forth from the church to my wedge and everything. But they got a drug lord, which is a guy that not only uses drugs, sells drugs, but he has children to sell drugs for him. His name is Sherlton Duncan. His nickname is Squirt. He has testified 4 times in 2 federals and 2 states to get off of charges. And he had 122 hits of drugs and $97,000 in cash. And he was allegedly supposed to be in my wedge. He is supposed to have talked to me 1 time, sir. He got out of jail on bond. He's out, and he gets some more drug charges. He comes back to jail, and during the time, it's a 4.5-year period, my original district attorney, Jill Phillips, told the court 3 times she was ready to take me to trial. The former governor, Robert Bentley, appointed her a judge. So she moved up in her rank, and Jennifer Wright took over the prosecution on my case. This is 4.5 years into the charge. Now, she has prosecuted, I believe, right at 22 in the neighborhood of 24 people she has put on death row. This young lady has never put no one on death row. No one, not white, black, male, female, young, old. She has never put nobody on death row without using a jailhouse informer.
Okay. Yeah, and you don't have, again,
they told him, if you come in Mr. Hicks' trial, and I may have talked to him, Mr. Rudy, one time and witnessed to him how good God's been in my life. I'm not sure, because I talked to hundreds and thousands of people, but I have never told nobody I've done this crime.
No.
From day one until this now, I've never lied to anybody and told them that I done it. In fact, I talked to the judge, Rusty Johnson, and told him that I felt so devastated by this young man dying on my watch that if he wanted me to plead guilty, I would plead guilty. The man dying while he come and stayed with me. I didn't. I wasn't the instrument of the man dying. The instrument, whoever, wherever, they said it was at my house at one time, then they changed it to my sister's house, and none of that, all that was a fictitious manufactured, made-up lie. But they have the alleged 3-year-old, and they have the jailhouse liar, and that's it.
Well, okay, so yeah, let's go back to that. So they have a jailhouse informant liar. They have a cadaver dog that sat down in a spot where they claim the body was murdered. And they have the 3-year-old toddler making a statement that Uncle Dennis got in a fight with Josh. But is there any DNA? Let's go back to where the dog sat down in that particular spot. Why is that spot so important? Is it important because there's DNA evidence of blood and there was things there? What did they find there?
all the tests proved that nothing occurred. The original crime scene was a police property. It's an old gun shooting gallery in Mobile County that the police law enforcement agencies. This is where the man was found. My sister told me, and I don't know if this is true, but prior 25 years, they have found several bodies there that they never solved who did it, and it was in the like manner. It was a ritual of a decapitation and all that type of stuff. But all of the forensics, the hair, the blood, the DNA, everything, the clothes that was found at the crime scene, they disregarded because the test shows that I wasn't the perpetrator. At Regina's house, where he's saying that the little boy told him that the crime scene did occur, none of the forensics supported that. None of it at all.
Was there even any forensics that supported that Joshua was killed at Regina's house?
No.
Okay.
This is strictly this lieutenant's misguided. His bias prejudice. He went around telling people this, and
let me ask you this: I heard something. I want to know what your opinion is. Was there another body found 25 miles from Joshua Duncan that was killed in a similar way while you were in custody? Is that true, or is that just something somebody's saying?
No, that's true. It's on record. I actually cut it out of the newspaper when I saw it and gave it to my lawyers. Now, me and my lawyers, Glenn Davidson and Deborah McGowan, they laid down. They actually sold me out. They worked for the DA and the judge so much that they didn't call none of the experts. They promised me they had a dozen. I had 65 witnesses. Some of them had factual first-hand knowledge of Josh. For instance, a guy named Stephen Wakes and his wife, they talked to Josh in the middle of September or the early part of October and asked him why his poster was out that he was missing. This man was alive, but the police started to lie that he was dead. And there was other people that saw Josh alive, but the police started the rumor that they had eyewitnesses, which was supposed to be the two little boys, that saw the killing, that it didn't happen.
Do you remember the name of the other gentleman that was murdered 25 miles from Joshua Duncan? Or do you still have do you still have that paper?
The location is either 8 Mile or Pritchard, and where Josh was found is called Sims. These are little bitty communities that we're talking maybe 8-10 miles wide or something like that, 7 or 11.
Okay.
Or
but you don't remember the name of the other guy that was murdered in a terrible fashion that Joshua was, right? If I was to look him up, I'm trying to find him on the internet. Okay, if you happen to have a copy of that paper clipping that you clipped out, I would love to get a copy of it. But okay.
Okay, I turned it in. This might be 2013. The year. I was arrested in 2011. Excuse me. They indicted me in 2012. During this indictment, while I'm there at the county jail, I give this newspaper article to my lawyer and told him, look, my sister said people had been killed there before, and here right down the road, this happened to be a black male. His arms and legs are decapitated, and it's similar, and it's not just 25, 30 miles from this spot. It can't be that many homicidal maniacs going around killing people. I know I'm locked up on this one, so they can't lie and say the warden let me out.
1 minute remaining.
Oh my goodness, let's get cut off again, Mr. Rudy. But I want to stress the emphasis that they did poison and clutter up, and they did get people that when they got on the witness stand, Mr. Rudy, they made inaccurate statements. For instance, Josh's brother, Savannah, she told me she was on drugs when she asked to live with me, and I didn't want her to know I was on parole, so I turned her down.
You know, what I've heard so far, Dennis, is cadaver dogs, testimony of coerced. It just cut me off. You know, if the evidence against Dennis is coerced testimony of 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, and cadaver dogs sitting in a spot, and jailhouse informant confessions, that's very weak. In my opinion, if that's the case, and I'm willing to read the trial transcripts and become more familiar with the case, but I don't think you put somebody to death based upon where a cadaver dog sits down, or the testimony of a 3-year-old, or jailhouse informant so-called confessions. I hope you guys help me educate ourselves about the case of Dennis Hicks, who's on Alabama death row. I pray that if you know of anybody that might have talked to or known this 3-year-old toddler Chance, who he claims was in Chicago, Illinois, between June of 2011 and November of 2011. I don't have his last names. That's not much to go on, right? But he's going to call back. Let's answer the phone.
Dennis Hicks.
Huh?
Inmate at
Yeah, I'll get to that.
Correctional Facility, Alabama Department of Corrections. Your account balance is $14.45. To hear the charges for this call, press or say 2. To accept this call, press or say 5. To refuse this call, hang up now. To block this call and all future calls, press or say 9. This call will be recorded and subject to monitoring at any time. Thank you for using IC Solutions. You may begin speaking now.
Hey, Dennis. Yeah, Dennis, that phone number that you gave out for your lawyer earlier, that's okay to put out publicly? I don't need to cut that out, right?
I don't think so. She works at Equal Justice Initiative Law Firms. It's public knowledge. She's in the phone book. She's in Lawyers Restoration and all of that. And
okay, and let me just. I wanted to summarize, and this may be our last phone call for tonight, and I'll put some more money on the phone as we go forward, Dennis. And our prayers for justice and truth in this situation are definitely with you. Yeah, I want to make sure I'm clear. So the evidence they have against you, and the reason you're sitting on death row right now, is the testimony of a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old who very well could have been coerced, and I'm fully aware of the unreliability of testimony of 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. They also have this picture of a cadaver dog sitting in a spot that was identified by chance. That seems to be very, very weak evidence. And they also have a jailhouse informant confession, which we all know that jailhouse informants trying to get off of their own crimes can be coerced to, say something that's not true. So is there any other evidence that I need to be aware of besides those 3 things, children's testimony, cadaver dogs, and jailhouse informants? Is there anything else that you want to make me aware of?
No, sir. The former, he was facing a mandatory life sentence. I was told that they gave him 30 months on his crime, so I don't believe he'll stay with that lie. This is what my situation is right now. I'm 9 months in my appeal. My brief and everything has been done. All 5 judges are reviewing my case, and through prayers of the family of the Church of God, all believers everywhere, I believe God's decreed that the judges will see the truth and they will reverse this corrupt verdict and overthrow it. I will be sent back to Mobile County. I will have to go to a new trial because the Mobile County has spent over $1 million already. They're not just going to say, well, we got it wrong, we're sorry, we're going to let you go. They're going to come up with some other lies, more than likely, and try to reconvict me. I've been here. 5 people have went back to Mobile County, and 2 of them got life sentences, 2 of them back on death row. It's just like a revolving door there for Mobile County. I wanted to get to the questions that you asked me.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. And real quick, and I appreciate you going through this, Dennis. Real quick, yeah, go ahead.
Question number 7 is, do you have a support system, and how can people learn about your story? They can write me directly at Dennis Morgan Hicks. My ID number is Z804. I'm located on death row, but you can put Tier O, Cell 6. That's my location here inside the prison. It's 3700 Holman, Atmore, Alabama, 36503. They can contact my lawyer. You have her phone number. And the support system that I hope is that God will inspire some people to step up. Law students, innocent project groups, individual members of the church, whoever will step up and have the kindness and willingness, energy and efforts to say, okay, let's gather this statements down there in Chicago. Let's get some pictures. Let's get some medical records. Let's get people, pastors in school, daycare people saying that, yes, this boy was there. Either he was or he wasn't. He was there, so the evidence, the facts support the innocence that child could not have led that police to do all the stuff that he did.
Okay, so Dennis, yep, and you're asking people to identify or help validate the fact that Chance was in Chicago, Illinois from June of 2011 to November of 2011, but just the name Chance, I mean, that's not a lot to go on. So what else can you provide people who want to help validate that indeed was true? I mean, what other information around that?
His last name is Norris. His last name is Chance Norris. His mother's name is Stephanie Norris. His daddy's name is Jason Norris. His grandmother's name is Regina Norris. They're all from Mobile, Alabama. All right. The grandmother's name is Michelle, and I'm not sure McCombs, her last name. Like I say, she come to trial. She testified. The DA says that she was lying, and I've never talked to her. I don't know her. So you can ask my lawyer her address, the church that she went to, the hospital that he was treated for his ankle injury, all those disclosure details. My lawyer can give anybody that's willing, either there in Chicago or will go to Chicago or will, spearhead a campaign drive to find out statements, testimonies, evidence, and preserve it.
Yep. And Dennis, is it Norris as in N as in Nancy, or Morris, M as in Mary? Is it Norris or Morris?
Norris, Norris.
Okay, N as in Nancy. Okay, all right, got it. Okay.
Okay, and the next question is, I don't have video link up. I don't have email asset. What do I need? I need people's prayers, love. I need people to understand that not only did I lose a relationship, I lose my liberty. I lost all the worldly possessions, mom's house, my tools, my clothes, my furniture, and everything, and I can recover from all of that. But the disgrace is the shame that they put up on me that I would like to have exonerated. I want my name cleared. I want people in my hometown to know that mistakes were made. Now, all police are not bad, and all district attorneys are not bad, but this one individual was worse than Mark Ferguson in the OJ trial. There was a lieutenant just last 2 weeks ago was arrested for child raping a 6-year-old girl and for stealing and planting evidence in the police department evidence room. This police is not even as worse as Lieutenant Peak. He set this whole thing up, got promotion and everything, and he's living now as a chief investigator for the district attorney's office.
Okay.
He got promoted.
Yep. And that's Lieutenant Andrew Peak. That's Lieutenant. Okay, you got my attention when you said there was a lieutenant that was arrested for having sex with a 6-year-old or something. Can you repeat that and tell me everything you know about that?
Well, I seen it on the news. I didn't catch his name. You probably can ask Tommy Lane. Tommy, he keeps up with the news stuff.
Okay.
But he was arrested, and they did charge, and they had his face, and they did say he was a lieutenant in the police department.
Is that recent? Is that recent? Is that recent?
A couple of weeks ago, but he was a policeman between 2006 and for 12 years. He just got arrested here last month or this month, and for 12 years there, he's been abusing people's evidence, and I mean, this monster. They arrested him for the 6-year-old rape of I'm not 100% sure of the age. They mine are under 12 years old, and somebody said 6. So I don't even think the TD said 6, but she was a small child.
Okay. And
he lost his badge, he lost his position, and he's no longer a police officer there.
Okay, I'll try to look into that. Okay, and I don't want to interrupt you, but do you yourself have any?
Thought.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. But I want to ask you at some point: do you yourself have any suspects at all in your mind on who might have done this to Joshua? Okay, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, that'd be my next topic. There was one expert that the DA called. His name was Dr. Kurt Lander. Carl Lander. He's a PhD. He's a psychologist. He did several tests on me, and he lied. He went into the courtroom and said he's a sociopath. He believes people are objects. He has a 5th grade education. He just lied, Rudy, outstandingly. Now, I have a junior college level education. I can read and write and comprehend well and do math and stuff, and actually took English and stuff in college. But since he testified in my trial. He's been arrested 4 times on drugs. He's lost his criminal psychology license. He went to rehab and told the judge that he didn't want to go to prison, that he was a drug addict. This was the man that in my second phase of my trial looked at the jury and said, Mr. Hicks needs to be put to death because he's a monster. Now, this man's been arrested 4 times on drugs. He lied from start to finish of he maybe talked to me 20, 25 minutes and told the jury he talked to me 3.5 hours. It was just a fabrication.
Incredible. What was this man's name? What was this man's name? And did the judge or the jury give you death? Which one gave you death? And what was this man's name that said that?
His name is Dr. Carl Kirtland, and he's a criminal psychologist. Can you
help me spell the last name?
Kirkland. I'm pretty sure Kirtland.
Okay.
Like that.
All right.
He has testified in. I probably could name 6 or 7 people on death row right now from his lies. But he was a drug addict for years, and now that he's not wanting to go to prison, he's admitting that he. It was a rigged the railroad. They framed me. And the other question was, are there other suspects in this case? And there are. There are 7 hairs at the original crime scene. They all were blonde. There's a guy named Tony. I don't know his last name. He lived down the street in a red pickup truck where Josh lived. Josh said that this man hit him upside the head with a 2x4 in a fight a prior year or so before he come and stayed with me those few days. His family knows it. The community knows it. He went to the hospital, had stitches in his head. It's easily substantiated. This guy told Josh he went down there with his drug lab, which was on his grandmother's property. She had something like 20 acres or however much it was. Josh went down and they got in a fight, and he told him he would kill him. Now, even though this was a year prior, that should have been a suspect. I told the lieutenant in my yard, he'd come to my house. I went down to the police station. He would come at my job saying, I would talk to him sometimes for hours, Mr. Rudy, and tell him who I thought was suspects that had a feasible, possible motive to hurt Josh. I didn't have any motive. The man never done me. I was helping him. I took him to the food stamp office, and the only official that talked to Josh was the food stamp lady at the welfare office, and they would not call her. She called me back in their interview and said, Mr. Hicks, is this right? This man was living in a ditch. His grandmother kicked him out, and you're going to take him in? And she had me to write a statement. Josh wrote a statement and signed his name. This is the signature that I asked my lawyers to get a handwriting expert, his signature off his high school graduation, off his Social Security card, and off that food stamp application. That signature matches the bill of sale because for months there they said I forged his name and faked the bill of sales, but I didn't. It was true. He sold me the trailer. I was 4 months shy of a clemency pardon from Mississippi. Why in the world would I want to forge a bill of sale and steal a 2-bit trailer that was over 20, 22 years, 25 years old? The tire was rotten, the trailer was rusty, no tail lights, no wire, no nothing. I fixed it up and resold it and only made a couple $100 profit to use on a trip. I was building a ramp for in Atlanta, Georgia, which was Regina's brother, and I wanted some emergency pocket money in case my car broke down. And I just flipped the trailer, sold it in a matter of a few days, and
okay, I got you.
She should have been called to my trial and stated that Josh told her that he knew my situation at my house, and he agreed that to get his food stamps sent there because he was going to live there for a month or 2 or a few weeks.
Well, Josh, go ahead.
The DA's motive in the trial, she told the jury, Mr. Hicks killed this man for his food stamps. But that is a lie, Mr. Rudy. His grandmother broke into my house and stole Josh's food stamp card and other stuff out of my house and gave it to the lieutenant. And the food stamp card was never activated. It was never. Josh left, and it came in the mail. Put it on the table, and I didn't see him since he left on the Tuesday the 6th. Okay, the next question here is there anything you care to tell about the original? I mentioned that.
Yeah, we covered that.
The status of my legal case, I'm waiting for my reversal. I ask people for their prayers that I believe I'm going to get a reversal. They say anywhere between 1 or 2 years, so I'm in my 9th month of review. Yes, the grandmother did testify, and the DA said that she was lying. Yes, the grandmother testified and said that she had the boy, but she said she was lying because her son was in prison. Yes, there was a body found similar 25, 30 miles from there. I think it was the year 2013, could have been 2014, because all of those, it might have been 2012, but there was body prior to Josh's location and after Josh's location, similar, and they're unsolved.
Okay, so even on that same abandoned shooting range, there were bodies found on that same abandoned shooting range years before that were, I guess dismembered, decapitated, and things like that.
My sister told me, and here's how I got the information. My sister's daughter, which is my niece, she was in a relationship with the police for 12 years. He was married, she was married, they both had kids, but they both was in an adulterous relationship. He told her, showed her pictures of the crime scene on his cell phone and everything, and said that for the past 25 years they had found 3 bodies that was unsolved there at the fire. Well, I was in prison for those 25 years, or at least 20 of them, because I've been out for 6 years. And she told my sister, and my sister told me, and she told the church. And it was the biggest thing, one of the biggest things in the courtroom, where the district attorney got the lieutenant on the stand. He got on the stand 3 times, and while he was on the stand, he said, "Look, we didn't tell the community how this man's brutally murdered. The little boy told me how he was brutally murdered. It wasn't on TV, it wasn't on the media, and he didn't know because he saw it." Well, the fact is that my sister's daughter, police friend told her, she told my sister told it on the microphone at my church, and she told so many people in the neighborhood that I would say dozens and dozens of people knew the condition of the body. It wasn't on TV, but the community knew because we were all in an uproar. We were all upset that this young man has lost his life. So it wasn't a secret there in the community, in the church. Where,
okay. I got it.
The police lied and said that this is what makes it credible that this boy told me this.
Okay. I got you. I understand what you're saying. Let me go back to the testimony of the 2 grandmothers. You said one of them is Regina Norris is your stepsister. She was the one who was... Okay.
She lives in Mobile. Okay,
and Stephanie Norris is the other grandmother who was in Chicago, Illinois.
No, that's the mother. That's her daughter-in-law. She was in prison. She is the mother of the 3 children.
Okay. All right. I got you. She's the mother of the children that was in jail. Okay. And so you don't know the name of the other grandmother that was taking care of Chance.
Her first name is Michelle, and I want to say it's
McCombs. McCombs.
Something like that. But my lawyer would tell you because she's got it in the manuscript.
It's going to take me a while to catch up. But, okay, so here's my question. Regina Norris is your stepsister, and she knew that Chance was not there from June until November of 2011. She knew that, right? Did she get up on the stand?
Right.
Did she get up on the stand?
She got on the stand. She testified to this, and she said the neighbor had the video surveillance camera to substantiate this claim that she come in the town on the bus. They wouldn't pick her up. She stayed there overnight and a day, and then went back to Chicago. And when she brought her back in November, she's on the video camera, and the police wouldn't get it, and my lawyers wouldn't get it. And the couple of days video that they got, they cut pieces out of Josh. Me and Josh left Regina's house, and you can see him, but it's dark. And because we left Monday night, I went back home. We lived like 10 miles apart. My dog had puppies, and I wanted to check on my property and stuff. And we went there. But my whereabouts with this crime occurred, the DA told a jury between 7 and 11 on Monday night, September 5th, 2011, that me and Josh was in a fight for 3 hours. I disposed of the body and everything. But I took my sister, Phyllis Lister, who was in a Cersei hospital. It's a mental hospital. Her husband got killed. She lost her mind there. She'd been in a mental hospital for like 40-something years. I've been getting her out ever since I got out of prison, and I got her over a couple of dozen times out on furloughs to help them get her life together because she was my sister, and I love her. Well, my other younger sister, who happens to be a nurse, she went to Searcy with me. We own surveillance camera at Searcy Tower inside. I signed in log, my signature, my driver's license, and the report sheet. I turned in her clothes and medicine and turned her over to the nurses and the security guard. Everybody there could have testified my whereabouts. I left there and went to my sister who lives in Satsuma.
Wait. Testified your whereabouts on a particular day? Do they have an identified day that they expect Joshua Duncan was murdered? And if so, what is that day?
The day is Monday, September the 5th, 2011, at Regina Norris's house.
Okay, all right.
Between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. That was the time that she told the jury that allegedly the little boy told the lieutenant, and the lieutenant had put it together, and that was the date that he told the coroner, and the coroner got up in the courtroom and said that the man died on Monday, the 5th. It was ridiculous because the lieutenant talked to her. She had told the news people that it was 2 to 6 to a year. That you have to take the body and stuff, that it wasn't recognizable, so they had to go and get a DNA to identify the body, which took 30 days or so. That's why we didn't know it was Josh. In October, we didn't find out it was him until the end of November, and when the coroner told the police that it was Josh, he arrested me the next morning off of my job.
So they claim to be able to look at the body in that sort of shape and determine the exact day that it died? Is that what they're claiming to be able to do?
That's when the police told the coroner. That's when he had eyewitness. Then the coroner supported his story. It was ridiculous.
I see. Okay, I got you. Now, I'm still not clear on when Regina Norris got up on the witness stand and testified that the boy was not there. How did they get around that? They just said that she's lying to protect you?
They told her that they were liars. They told her that they had ill will towards the police law enforcement, and that they was uncredible, that not to believe them, that the grandmother had called child services back in June and tried to, was going to give the children up to child service, but the lady was going through a lot of emotional things with her property and her children in prison and everything. The kids was too much for her. She was in her 60s. She was an old lady, and 3 little babies was getting on her nerves. But she didn't give them the child custody. She gave the little one to the other grandmother.
Okay, wait. I'm still... So Regina Norris couldn't handle taking care of all 3 kids, so she had to give Chance, the 3-year-old, to Michelle McCombs. But let's go back to Regina Norris. Did she or did she not get up on that witness stand and testify that Chance was gone from June to November of 2011? Did she tell the jury that Chance was gone?
She did. 100%. She got up there and she said that Chance was in Chicago and that she personally signed the custody papers over to the lady for medical purposes in Chicago. Not at the time he left, but he hurt his ankle, so by a fax machine and stuff, she signed guardianship for insurance purposes for the little boy to be treated in Chicago.
Okay. So they did that. Yep. Okay. So Regina Norris testified in your favor that that Chance was not even there. Michelle McCombs, if that's her last name, I know you said it may not be, but Michelle, was there any effort at all made to contact her and to get her to come testify at your trial?
She did. She come down what they call a secret seal. The judge give my lawyers money for her. She wouldn't ride a plane, so she rode a bus. She come down, she come in the courtroom, and she stated, she gave pictures of Chance. She said, I took Chance from June the 10th and kept him till the 28th, 27th, or whatever November that he brought her back, and that she had pictures of him with her pastor, had pictures of him with her family, had picture of him riding a bicycle.
Is her testimony going to be in the trial transcripts if somebody goes and gets...
Yeah. Yes, and all of that's there. And at this particular time, they started covering the wagon, and this is why the lieutenant got on the stand 3 times. He got on the stand and said, well, I didn't say that this child was there, but he did say it. He told his captain, he told the DA, they indicted me on his lie that he indoctrinated that little boy. He coached him, he tricked him, he deceived him, and once he found out the little boy wasn't in Mobile, he panicked for his life. He knew he'd been caught with his pants down, that he fabricated it all, and the judge sentenced me and covered him. The DA covered him and said, I'm sentencing you to death row, Dennis, because I made me believe the 3-year-old boy saw you kill this man.
What's the judge's name? What's the judge's name?
Charles Graddick.
Can you spell the last name? Can you spell the last name?
Garddick, Graddick.
Okay, and let me ask you this. The judge is the one who gave you the death penalty, not the jury. Is that true?
No, they voted, I think it was 11-1 for the death penalty. There was one there I felt was a Christian, and she didn't believe it.
Well, how do you have to be unanimous to get the death, or if one holds out?
No, I think it's 8 here in Alabama.
I see. So both grandmothers, Michelle McCombs and Regina Norris, testified that the chance is not even there. There's no way he could have seen a murder. He was gone during September. You said he was claimed to be dead on September the 5th. He was not even there in Mobile, Alabama, and yet that's the biggest that's the biggest evidence against you. Is the testimony of this 3-year-old little boy.
Yeah, but now the police claim that it was the 5th. The man left my house on the 6th, and there were several people that saw him during the month of September. So I don't know what day the man died. I know the last time I saw him with my eyeball was on the 6th, Tuesday. He left my house.
Okay. So, but if he had to die before you got arrested, so there's no way that Chance could have ever seen any sort of confrontation between you and Joshua Duncan. I mean, and so if the only evidence against you is the testimony of this 3-year-old, they're only left with a statement from Bubba, they're left with a cadaver dog, and a jailhouse lion informant. I mean, that's not much to put somebody to death on. It just seems, yeah.
You have to realize they manufactured when the lieutenant wasn't told this, Kathy wasn't told, he wasn't told like a half a dozen experts, child care experts, and all of them got on the stand and said, this little boy told me that Dennis did it. This little boy told me that, but they had been lied to. The lieutenant told them, look, I got a killer out here. He's a serial killer. He's a homicidal maniac. He's been in prison for killing. He's killing people all in the neighborhood. And this little boy called him, and I want you to go out there and get that little boy to tell you what he saw. So all of these adult specialist is going asking them, did you see Uncle Dennis in a fight? At 3, he said yes, but at trial, he did not say that. He said he didn't know the difference between a lie and the truth, and the judge says, okay, I'm going to go with the DA request and go with his 3-year-old statement, which was a 5-year-old statement, which was really insubmittable because it wasn't in the state. It was a hearsay statement. It was poisonous fruit.
Okay,
he shouldn't have let it in trial.
No, that's shocking. That's shocking. Okay, wait. At the time of the death of Joshua Duncan, Chance was 3 years old. How old was Chance at the time of trial?
8.
The trial didn't occur until 5 years later?
Right.
They
quarantined my house, took my house, and I lost all of that. And now my parole people stood up for me, Mr. Rudy, all the way through that. They said, well, we don't believe Mr. Hicks did any of this. And she got on record. She got on the recorder at my revocation here. She says, I'm not recommending Mr. Hicks be revoked. I'm not recommending. This man has shown through years of diligent efforts that he's tried and true and blue with living a Christian life, and I believe it. And the lieutenant called Mississippi and pulled some strings and revoked my parole, and I was stuck in the jailhouse without bond.
I'm just shocked that they could have dismissed the testimony of Michelle McCombs and Regina Norris, who said that the child wasn't even there. They must have been convinced that, the prosecuting attorney must have convinced the jury that both of those women were lying.
Right, and that's not the only person that testified. Now, the mother in prison, she testified that she called Chicago when they told her her baby was sent there. She talked to him from prison. She had factual first-hand knowledge that he was in Chicago too. So actually 3 adults, and these were the only 3 adults that was asked. None of the children was asked. Chance wasn't asked, did you ever leave the state of Alabama? Neither one of the little boy and the little girl was asked, did your brother ever get separated from you like your mom and daddy did? All 3 of the children would have said, yes, Chance went to Chicago, but my lawyers wouldn't ask.
Wow.
They wouldn't even ask the daddy. The daddy knew that his youngest son was with his mom-in-law's grandparents in Chicago. And check this out. Regina had rented rooms to different women almost all her life at her house because she's been a widow for 40 years or better. That lady in July and August of 2011 stayed at her house for 8 weeks. She babysitted those 2 kids, and she was supposed to have been subpoenaed. Her name was Manley. I forget her last name. She was testified that it was only 2 children there at the house. The boy to my sister named Ray Johnson, he testified that Regina only had 2 kids there when he would go visit her for the last 6 months of 2011. He said he did not see 3 kids; he only seen 2 kids.
He said that during trial.
Right.
Why? So you got four adults, maybe 4 or 5 adults that have said that the chance wasn't even there, and they've somehow dismissed all these adults' testimony. It's absolutely incredible.
I'm still in shock, and that's why I'm coming out of this, because God knows my innocence. He knows I did not do this. Now, I'm asking people to pray, and whatever God leads them to rally up and gather up to Chicago and Mobile. About when they said me and Josh was in a fight on that Monday night between 7 and 11, Josh and I, when I come back from the hospital about 8:30, 9 o'clock, I stopped off and picked him up, and we went to my house, but we stopped at Walmart. Josh and...
All right, it cut him off in mid-statement. I don't know that he'll call back. We'll see. You know, personally, I've lost all faith in our judicial system. I don't put a lot of faith in so-called child experts. I don't put faith in cadaver dogs. I don't put faith in testimony from 3-year-olds. But I do want everyone to get a fair trial, especially if you're on death row. And I am no stranger to corruption within law enforcement officials and forensic laboratories. Even forensic laboratories have been incredibly corrupt in many cases. And so I ask you to evaluate this case if you've listened this far. Maybe if you have any outstanding questions, write a letter to Dennis Morgan Hicks, who's sitting on Alabama death row. My prayers go out to the family of Joshua Duncan, who obviously have extreme grief, I would imagine, for the loss of their grandson. But it doesn't do anybody any good to put a person in prison that's not proven guilty beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt. And I'm still learning the case. I'm still learning. I mean, you guys heard everything I just heard just now. God bless. May the Lord lead us and guide us into all truth, and may justice come down like a mighty river.